Welcome back to Unlock, Empower, Transform. I'm Shay Blackmon, HR strategist, culture transformation leader, published author, and a DBA candidate who apparently can't stop studying even after 2 decades in the field. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here a while, you already know we don't do fluff. Today we are talking about something that has been living rent-free in my head and frankly, in the heads of a lot of women I encounter in leadership spaces. We're talking about what it means to be a GenX professional in today's corporate landscape, where somehow, between AI hype cycles and millennial branded everything, your 20 plus years of battle-tested experience got quietly overlooked. And I need you to hear me clearly. That is about to change. Today's episode is called From Invisible to Indispensable, GenX's Leadership Renaissance, and we are covering 3 things: reclaiming the narrative about your leadership value, marketing yourself as an AI-savvy transformation leader, and building an executive brand that actually reflects where you are right now. Not where you were, where you are. Let's get into it. Let's start with something that might sting just a little, and I say that with complete respect. The narrative that GenX leaders have been letting others write for them. There is this pervasive, unspoken assumption in corporate America right now that if you didn't grow up swiping left on a touchscreen, you're somehow behind the curve. That your leadership style is too traditional, too structured, too, and I've actually heard this word used, legacy. Legacy. As if 2 decades of real, live, organizational results is a liability. Here's what I know after 24 years of working inside organizations, from manufacturing floors to boardrooms, and now studying organizational leadership at the doctoral level. Experience is not the enemy of innovation. Untested enthusiasm without strategic grounding is. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. Every generation brings something valuable. But what GenX brings specifically, the ability to bridge analog systems with digital realities, to lead through ambiguity because we literally grew up in it, to hold organizational complexity without completely melting down, that is an asset that is grossly undermarketed. And that's on us. Partially. Because here's the thing. We were raised in a work culture that said, let your results speak for themselves. Head down, do good work, get recognized. Except that's not how visibility works anymore. It probably never fully did, but definitely not now. Reclaiming the narrative means getting intentional about the story you tell. Not arrogant, not overcompensating, intentional. There was a company, a mid-sized manufacturer, where a senior HR leader had been instrumental in rebuilding their entire people strategy after a significant operational disruption. Engagement scores climbed, turnover dropped, culture shifted. And she was consistently passed over for executive conversations because her presence in those rooms was not visible enough. Her results were in the reports. She was not in the rooms where the interpretation of those reports happened. That's a narrative gap, not a performance gap, a visibility gap. So how do you close it? You start by auditing how you talk about yourself, not your job description, your impact. There's a massive difference between saying, I manage HR operations, and saying, I architect the people systems that determine whether an organization can scale without fracturing its culture. Same work, completely different positioning. This is exactly the foundation I build on in my book, High Value Leadership, Transforming Organizations Through Purposeful Culture. Because high value leadership isn't about titles. It's about the level of impact you create and whether the people around you can see it clearly. That link is in the show notes if you want to grab a copy. Now let's talk about the elephant, or maybe the algorithm in the room, AI. If I had $1 for every GenX professional who told me they feel like they're falling behind on AI, I would not need to be building a consulting practice. I could simply retire on that sentiment alone. Here's the reality. AI is not a youth movement. It is a strategic tools movement. And Gen X leaders, particularly those of us who have navigated multiple technology transitions from paper-based HR processes to full HRIS implementations, from spreadsheet forecasting to predictive analytics, we are uniquely equipped to evaluate, adopt, and govern AI thoughtfully. The question is not whether you can learn AI. The question is whether you're positioning yourself as someone who understands how AI intersects with human systems. Because that intersection is exactly where organizational transformation happens. And transformation, that's our lane. Let me give you a practical frame. AI literacy for a senior leader is not about writing prompts, though that's useful. It's about understanding what AI can and cannot do when it comes to the human dynamics of an organization. Anyone can run a report. A high-value leader knows what questions to ask before the report is even generated. My current doctoral research is focused on AI-enhanced predictive analytics for culture transformation and employee turnover prevention. Not because I needed a hobby, I really didn't, but because I saw the gap between what organizations say they want to fix and the data tools that could actually help them see those issues coming months in advance. That intersection is where I operate. So how do you market yourself internally as AI savvy? A few moves. 1. Get visible in the conversations about AI adoption in your organization. You don't have to be the most technically fluent person in the room. You need to be the one asking the right human-centered questions. What are the equity implications? What does this mean for the people on this team? How do we govern this responsibly? 2. Start documenting your learning. If you've taken any courses, attended webinars, done any self-directed research on AI in your field, that is a credential. Frame it that way. 3. Connect AI back to business outcomes, not just process efficiency. The most compelling AI narrative for a leader isn't, "I automated something." It's, "I used data intelligence to anticipate a people problem before it cost us 6 figures in turnover." Now that's a conversation that gets leadership attention. This is also a big theme in my upcoming high-value leadership intensive, where we go deep on building the kind of leadership presence and strategic intelligence that positions you as someone indispensable to your organization's future, not just its present. Details are in the show notes, and I'd love for you to join us. All right, I promised you an actionable exercise, and I don't make promises I don't keep. This one takes about 5 minutes and is genuinely something I use with leaders in transformation conversations. It's called the Indispensable Positioning Statement, and it has 3 parts. Part 1, your transformation impact. Finish this sentence. In the last 12 to 24 months, I have directly influenced what by doing how, which resulted in measurable outcome or shift. Be specific, not vague. Numbers, percentages, qualitative shifts, use them. Part 2, your strategic intersection. Finish this sentence. I sit at the intersection of your human expertise and the emerging organizational priority, which means I can help this organization specific capability. For most of us in transformation and HR work, that emerging priority right now is AI governance, workforce redesign, or culture scalability. Part 3, your future value. Finish this sentence. As your organization, industry moves toward future state, my role becomes more critical because why your expertise is non-negotiable. When you put those 3 together, you have the foundation of an executive positioning narrative that is grounded in truth, forward-facing, and impossible to dismiss as legacy thinking. Drop your positioning statement, or even just part 1, in the comments. I read everything, and I want to see how you're framing your impact. Let's close this out with executive brand, and before anyone internally flinches, let's call it what it really is: reputation management with intention. Your executive brand is the answer to the question people give about you when you are not in the room. And here's what I've observed, especially among women in mid to senior career stages. The answer is often, "She's great," or she really knows her stuff, both of which are essentially meaningless in a room full of people making strategic decisions. A strong executive brand is specific. It tells people not just that you're competent, but what you're uniquely positioned to do, what problems you solve, and what kind of leader you show up as when things get hard. The last part matters more than most people realize. For Gen X leaders specifically, building your brand at this stage of your career involves a few things working together. First, your internal brand. How do you show up consistently within your organization? This means being known for something, not everything. The culture architect, the change navigator, the person who can walk into a fractured team and rebuild trust. Pick a lane that's authentic to your actual expertise and own it visibly. Second, your external brand. What's your presence outside your current organization? This is where things like publishing, speaking, podcasting, writing, and yes, being on platforms where your thinking is visible come into play. You don't have to do all of it, but you should be doing something, because when your organization is doing well, an internal brand is sufficient. When the organization hits turbulence, and they all do, an external brand is what protects your professional equity. Third, brand alignment. Does how you show up online match how you show up in the room? This is something I pay close attention to with professionals I advise. If your LinkedIn profile is a list of job titles and your in-person presence is dynamic, visionary, and compelling, that's a gap that costs you opportunities. And for those of you thinking, Shay, I've been heads down doing the work for decades. I don't even know where to start. Start with the exercise we just did. That positioning statement is your brand foundation. Everything else, the content, the conversations, the visibility, builds on top of it. One more thing I'll say here. The Shield Resilience Strategy, which is our free download for this episode, has a full section on building and protecting your internal resources, which includes how you anchor yourself in your own value when organizational dynamics try to shrink you. Because brand without resilience is just performance, and we are not performers. We are leaders. All right, let's bring it home. Today, we talked about reclaiming the narrative around your leadership experience, because your track record is a strategic asset, not a relic. We talked about positioning yourself as an AI-savvy leader in a way that's grounded, credible, and genuinely valuable to the organizations you serve. And we built the foundation of an executive brand that reflects where you actually are, not where you started. Your free resource for this episode is the Shield Resilience Strategy Guide, a framework specifically designed for professional women navigating corporate environments that weren't always designed with us in mind. It covers everything from self-awareness and healthy coping strategies to building the external support systems that make your resilience sustainable, not just reactive. That link is in the show notes. Download it, use it, and drop a comment. I want to know which part of the SHIELD framework hits different for you right now. If today's conversation resonated, I'd also love for you to check out High Value Leadership, Transforming Organizations Through Purposeful Culture, the book that goes deeper on everything we touched today. And if you are ready to do this work at an intensive level, with me, in a structured, high-impact environment, the High Value Leadership Intensive is coming. Details in the show notes. Don't sleep on it. I'll be back Thursday with another episode, The AI Literacy Gap, upskilling your workforce in weeks, not years. And if your organization is trying to figure out how to actually get their teams AI ready without a year-long curriculum, you're going to want to tune in. Until then, lead with purpose, protect your energy, and remember, you didn't survive 20 plus years in this field to be invisible. You are indispensable. Act accordingly. I'm Shay Blackmon. This is Unlock, Empower, Transform. I'll see you Thursday.